I was wrapping up my business trip in Seattle 2 days early, excited to surprise my wife and twin daughters. Life seemed perfect. A loving marriage to Amanda for 12 years. Our beautiful 8-year-old girls, Lily and Emma, waiting at home. Then my phone buzzed. A text from my brother Ethan, "Don't go home tonight." Confused and concerned, I immediately called him. No answer. My phone buzzed again. "Just trust me and stay away." My stomach tightened with dread. What could possibly be wrong? Before I tell you what happened next, let me know where you're watching from. Hit that subscribe button if you've ever had that gut feeling that something was terribly wrong. My job as a software sales executive keeps me on the road frequently, sometimes up to 2 weeks each month. During these 12 years of marriage, Amanda and I built a system that worked for our family. She managed our home in suburban Portland, while I earned enough for us to live comfortably in a 4-bedroom house with a yard that was perfect for the twins. Ethan, my younger brother by 2 years, lives about 20 minutes away from us. He never married, focusing instead on his career as a network security specialist. Despite his sometimes overprotective nature, Ethan has always been my closest confidant. When our parents moved to Arizona for retirement 3 years ago, our bond only strengthened as we relied more on each other. Amanda and I met during sophomore year of college. She was studying early childhood education while I pursued business. After graduation, we married quickly, built careers, and eventually welcomed Lily and Emma into our lives. For years, everything seemed perfect. Amanda was the kind of mother who volunteered at school and organized neighborhood playdates. I was the proud husband who showed off family photos to clients. The last few months, though, I had noticed subtle changes. Amanda seemed more distant, often glued to her phone. When I would enter a room, she would quickly turn the screen off. She explained it away as planning a surprise for our upcoming anniversary, and I believed her. Why wouldn't I? This woman had given me everything I ever wanted in life. The text from Ethan came as I was collecting my luggage at baggage claim. Initially, I thought he might be pranking me. But Ethan was never the practical joker type. I tried calling him 4 times as I walked to the parking garage, each call going straight to voicemail. His next text read simply, "Not safe. Come to my place. We'll explain everything." My hands trembled slightly as I put the key in the ignition of my rental car. The drive from Seattle to Portland takes about 3 hours. 3 hours of my mind racing through terrible scenarios. Was there a gas leak at our house? A break-in? Was Amanda hurt? Were the girls okay? I found myself automatically driving toward our neighborhood before remembering Ethan's warning. What could be so urgent that I needed to stay away from my own home? After 12 years of marriage, I trusted Amanda completely. But I also trusted Ethan with my life. The memory of when Ethan warned me about a previous girlfriend in college flashed through my mind. He had noticed her behavior changes before I did, eventually discovering her cheating on me with my roommate. Back then, I had ignored his warnings for weeks, before finding out the painful truth myself. With that memory fresh in my mind, I made the decision to divert to Ethan's place. My knuckles turned white as I gripped the steering wheel, taking the exit that would lead to his neighborhood instead of mine. 3 hours and 23 minutes after receiving that first text, I pulled into Ethan's driveway. His modest 2-bedroom house was dark, except for a light in what I knew to be his home office. I texted him that I had arrived, and seconds later the front door opened. The expression on his face sent a chill down my spine. Ethan looked like he had aged years since I last saw him 2 weeks ago. Dark circles underlined his eyes, and his usually neat appearance was disheveled. He wore the same expression he had when he had to tell me our grandfather had passed away years ago, a mixture of dread and determination. "Jordan," he said, simply ushering me inside without the usual brotherly hug. "Thanks for trusting me." The living room was dimly lit, the shades drawn despite it being early evening. His neighborhood was quiet, mostly young professionals and a few retirees who kept to themselves. The modest furnishings reflected his bachelor lifestyle, practical and minimal. "What the hell is going on, Ethan?" I demanded, dropping my overnight bag by the door. "You can't send texts like that and expect me not to freak out. Are Amanda and the girls okay? Ethan rubbed his hand across his face, a nervous gesture I recognized from childhood. Physically, they're fine. But there's something you need to see. Something I discovered by accident. My confusion grew as he led me to his home office. 3 computer monitors displayed different feeds. One showed his own front yard, another his backyard. Remember your birthday last month, he asked, sitting down heavily in his desk chair. The security system I gave you, the cameras, and monitoring setup. I nodded slowly. Ethan had insisted on installing a comprehensive security system for our home cameras at entry points, motion sensors, the works. Amanda had been surprisingly resistant to the idea, but eventually relented when Ethan framed it as a protective measure for the girls while I traveled. What about it? I asked, a knot forming in my stomach. The system backs up to my secure server, Ethan explained, his voice low and controlled. I wanted to make sure you had redundancy in case someone tried to tamper with the local recordings. He clicked a few keys on his keyboard. 2 weeks ago, while you were in Chicago, I noticed something unusual. An unfamiliar car parked outside your house for several hours. Then another different vehicle 3 days later. My breathing became shallow as Ethan continued. I thought it might be nothing. Maybe friends of Amanda, or parents from the girls' school. But the pattern continued. Always, when you were away. Always late evening hours. He turned to face me directly. Jordan, I started monitoring more closely. What I found. His voice trailed off as he clicked open a video file. You need to see this for yourself. The screen showed the front of my house, date and time stamped from 2 weeks ago, 1042 p.m. On a Tuesday night while I was presenting at a conference in Chicago. A dark sedan pulled into our driveway, and a man I had never seen before exited the vehicle, tall, maybe in his 30s, carrying what looked like a bottle of wine. The front door opened before he even knocked. Amanda greeted him with an embrace that went beyond friendly. They kissed passionately in the doorway before disappearing inside. My throat constricted. Maybe it's a mistake, I whispered, desperation creeping into my voice. Maybe it's not. Ethan silently opened another file. Different day, different man. Same warm reception from my wife. I watched as she welcomed this stranger, younger, with tattoos visible on his forearms, into our home. Into the home where our daughters slept. There's more, Ethan said, quietly clicking through additional footage. 6 different men over the span of 3 weeks, all visiting when I was away on business. All greeted affectionately by Amanda. The betrayal cut deep, but nothing prepared me for what came next. Ethan opened another file, this one, showing our kitchen. Amanda sat at the island counter with a man I recognized from earlier footage. They were drinking wine, but what froze my blood was the sight of my daughters in their pajamas, sitting uncomfortably close to this stranger. He was showing them something on his phone, their small heads bent together with his. Amanda watched with a smile that now seemed sinister rather than maternal. Another clip showed a different man tousling Emma's hair in a way that made my skin crawl, his hand lingering too long on her shoulder. Your kids are being groomed by these men while you're away, Ethan whispered, his voice breaking. Amanda is bringing predators into your home, Jordan, around your children. The room spun around me. I lurched forward, barely making it to Ethan's bathroom before violently emptying my stomach. Cold sweat broke out across my forehead as I tried to process what I had just witnessed. This couldn't be happening. Not Amanda. Not our girls. When I returned to Ethan's office, he had more evidence ready. He had meticulously documented everything: license plates, facial recognition searches, revealing criminal records for 2 of the men time patterns, showing this had been happening for potentially months. How could I have missed this? I asked, my voice hollow with shock. How could she do this to our family? To our children? Ethan explained. He had already reached out discreetly to his friend, who specialized in family law. Based on what I showed him, he believes we have enough evidence for emergency custody orders and restraining orders against Amanda and these men. But we need to move quickly. As the initial shock began to wear off, a new emotion surged through me. Pure, unfiltered rage. I stood up abruptly, knocking the chair backward. I need to get my daughters out of there. Now. Ethan blocked the doorway. Jordan, I know exactly how you feel. But if you storm in there, fueled by anger, you could jeopardize everything. The police and child services need to be involved properly. We need to do this right for the girls' sake. As much as it pained me, I knew he was right. The girls deserved better than to witness a volatile confrontation. They had already been exposed to enough trauma. We spent the next 3 hours examining additional evidence Ethan had gathered. Text messages Amanda had sent to these men captured by the backup system he had installed on our home network. Patterns of behavior that now made perfect sense. How she always encouraged me to take longer business trips. How she insisted the girls stop using video calls with me in the evenings because it disrupted their bedtime routine. By dawn, we had a plan. A plan that would ensure my daughter's safety while building an airtight case against Amanda and her associates. The next 48 hours were the most intense of my life. Ethan and I consulted with family law attorneys, child welfare specialists, and law enforcement officers who specialized in crimes against children. The evidence Ethan had meticulously gathered proved invaluable, leading to rapid response from authorities who understood the urgency of the situation. The plan required patience and strategic timing. While every instinct screamed at me to rush home and confront Amanda immediately, the professionals advised a coordinated approach. We needed to ensure the children would be immediately removed to safety while preserving all evidence for the inevitable legal battles ahead. A detective who specialized in family crimes helped us craft a strategy. We would arrive with police support during daytime hours when the girls would be home from school, but before any potential visitors might arrive. Child Protective Services would have representatives present to assess the situation and provide immediate support for Lily and Emma. Throughout the planning process, I found myself oscillating between crushing despair and focused determination. During quiet moments, memories of our family life together would intrude. Amanda teaching the girls to bake cookies, family movie nights, cuddled on the couch, vacation photos that lined our hallway. Had it all been a facade? How long had she been betraying not just our marriage, but her fundamental duty as a mother to protect our children? Ethan remained my rock through it all. He took emergency leave from work, coordinated with authorities, and kept me from spiraling into either debilitating grief or blind rage. "The girls need you whole," he reminded me during a particularly dark moment. "Not broken by this, not consumed by anger. They need their father now more than ever." The morning of the confrontation arrived cold and overcast. I had barely slept, rehearsing what I would say to Amanda, how I would keep my composure for the sake of the children. We met the authorities at a designated location near our neighborhood: 2 police cruisers with 4 officers, a child protective services vehicle with 2 social workers, and our family attorney. The drive to my own home felt surreal, like I was watching someone else's life unfold. We parked along the street rather than in the driveway, maintaining an element of surprise. Ethan squeezed my shoulder before I exited the car. "Remember," he said quietly, "this is about protecting Lily and Emma. Nothing else matters right now." Amanda's face when she opened the door is forever seared into my memory. First surprise at seeing me home, unexpectedly, quickly replaced by confusion at the presence of police officers flanking me, then understanding and fear as she realized what was happening. Her eyes darted to Ethan standing behind me, and her expression hardened. "Jordan, what is this?" she demanded, attempting to control the narrative immediately. "Why are the police here? What has your brother been telling you?" One of the officers stepped forward, explaining they had a warrant to search the premises based on evidence of child endangerment. Amanda's face drained of color as she clutched the doorframe for support. The girls were in the living room watching television when we entered. Their excited cries of "Daddy" cut through the tension as they ran to embrace me. I held them tightly, fighting back tears as I checked them over, searching their innocent faces for signs of the trauma they may have experienced. "Why are all these people here, Daddy?" Lily asked, her small hand clutching mine. "Why do you look sad?" A female social worker gently introduced herself to the girls, explaining she needed to talk with them privately while the grown-ups had an important conversation. With professional skill, she guided them to their bedroom with promises of showing them some special toys she had brought. Once the children were out of earshot, Amanda launched into a defensive tirade alternating between anger and tears. "This is insane. Your paranoid brother has always hated me, and now he's feeding you lies. Those men were just friends, colleagues from work, parents from the girls' school." The detective silently played a compilation of video clips on a tablet, showing her intimate interactions with multiple men and their inappropriate proximity to the children. Amanda's denials dissolved into panic as she realized the extent of the evidence against her. "You had no right to spy on me," she screamed at Ethan. "This is invasion of privacy. You can't use that in court." Our attorney stepped forward calmly, explaining that as the homeowner, I had every legal right to install security cameras on my property, and that Ethan had acted as my authorized agent in monitoring those feeds. What followed was a methodical execution of the search warrant. Officers found evidence that corroborated everything in the videos: phone numbers, gifts from these men hidden in Amanda's closet, and most damning of all, explicit messages detailing plans to gradually introduce the children to increasingly inappropriate interactions. Throughout the process, I maintained a composed exterior for the sake of the girls who were being gently interviewed by specialists trained in trauma-sensitive questioning. Inside, I was shattered. Every revelation was another blow to the life I thought I had built: the family I believed in, the woman I had trusted with my heart and with the safety of our children. When the social workers determined the children should not remain in the home, Amanda became hysterical. "You can't take my daughters. Jordan, tell them I'm a good mother." I looked at the stranger before me. This woman who had shared my bed for 12 years, given birth to our children, and then betrayed them in the most fundamental way possible, and found my voice. "A good mother protects her children," I said quietly, my calm tone belying the storm inside me. "A good mother doesn't invite dangerous men into their home. A good mother doesn't allow them to be groomed for abuse. You're not that mother anymore, Amanda, if you ever were." As officers escorted Amanda to another room to continue the investigation, I knelt before my daughters to explain in age-appropriate terms that they would be staying with Uncle Ethan and me for a while because Mommy needed some help. Their confusion and tears broke what remained of my heart. But I promised them one thing with absolute certainty: they would be safe from now on. That night, in the spare bedroom of Ethan's house, where my daughters finally slept after hours of questions and confusion, I made a silent vow. This would not define them. This betrayal would not be their story. I would rebuild our lives piece by shattered piece and ensure they grew up knowing they were protected, valued, and unconditionally loved. The 3 months following that confrontation became a time of profound transformation. With Ethan's unwavering support, I navigated the complex legal and emotional landscape of our new reality. The court granted me emergency custody of the girls while the investigation into Amanda and her associates deepened. What authorities uncovered was even more disturbing than we initially feared: a network of predators who systematically targeted single mothers and traveling fathers, using the women to gain access to children. 2 of the men identified in our security footage had previous records related to child exploitation, though none had been convicted. Amanda faced serious criminal charges along with several of her friends. Her attempts to paint herself as an unwitting participant quickly crumbled under the weight of evidence showing her active involvement. When confronted with the extent of her crimes, she accepted a plea deal that included significant prison time and permanent loss of parental rights. Finding appropriate housing became my first priority. I couldn't return to our family home; the place was tainted by betrayal and potential abuse. Ethan's place, while safe, was too small for a long-term arrangement with 2 growing girls. My company proved unexpectedly supportive, allowing me to work remotely and take family leave when needed. With their help, I secured a rental home in a new school district where the girls could make a fresh start. The most challenging aspect was addressing the girls' emotional needs. Specialized child therapists helped us determine the full extent of what Lily and Emma had experienced and begin the healing process. To my tremendous relief, forensic evaluations suggested the grooming had been in early stages, and while the children had been exposed to inappropriate conversations and boundary violations, the worst potential outcomes had been prevented by our intervention. Still, the trauma manifested in different ways. Emma became withdrawn, struggling with trust and attachment. Lily developed separation anxiety, panicking whenever I was out of sight. Nightmares plagued them both. Each regression or emotional outburst felt like another indictment of my failure to protect them. You cannot blame yourself, my therapist reminded me during one particularly difficult session. Predators like these are experts at deception. Amanda betrayed not just your trust, but the fundamental trust of parenthood. Your intervention saved your daughters from a terrible fate. Gradually, with professional help and consistent boundaries, signs of healing emerged. The girls began sleeping through the night. Emma started talking about her feelings instead of bottling them up. Lily could tolerate brief separations without panic. Small victories that felt monumental in our journey toward recovery. Ethan remained our steadfast ally, transforming from bachelor uncle to essential family member. He child-proofed his home, learned to braid hair, and mastered the art of dinosaur-shaped pancakes for Sunday breakfasts. The girls adored him, finding security in his consistent presence when their world had been turned upside down. 6 months into our new life, I sat in family court for the final custody hearing. With Amanda's criminal case resolved through her guilty plea, the family court judge made his ruling permanent full custody to me, with Amanda's parental rights permanently terminated. The finality of it hit me as I signed the paperwork, the complete dissolution of what I once thought was a perfect family. Yet looking across the courtroom at my brother making silly faces to keep the girls entertained during the proceedings, I realized we were still a family. Different, wounded, but healing together. That night, after the girls were asleep, Ethan and I sat on the back porch of our new home. The spring air carried the scent of newly planted flowers, a garden the girls had helped design as part of their therapy. "I never thanked you properly," I said, breaking our comfortable silence. "Without your intervention, you would have figured it out eventually." Ethan interrupted. "You're a good father, Jordan." "Maybe, but not soon enough." I looked up at the stars, thinking about how close we had come to catastrophe. "How did you know to install that backup system, to monitor it so closely?" Ethan was quiet for a long moment. "Remember Dad's friend Miguel from the construction company? His daughter wasn't as lucky. By the time they discovered what was happening, the abuse had been going on for years." He shrugged, uncomfortable with being cast as a hero. "I guess I've always been paranoid about protecting family." "That paranoia saved my daughters," I said simply. 1 year after that fateful text message, our lives had found a new rhythm. The legal battles were behind us. Amanda remained in prison, her accomplices facing even longer sentences. The girls were thriving in their new school, making friends and reclaiming their childhood bit by bit. I had found unexpected purpose in connecting with other parents who had experienced similar betrayals, forming a support group that helped families rebuild after unthinkable breaches of trust. The pain would never completely disappear, but it had transformed into something productive, a heightened awareness that helped protect other children. On the anniversary of that day, I took the girls and Ethan to the coast for the weekend. Watching Lily and Emma running along the beach, their laughter carried by the wind, I reflected on how far we had come. They would always carry scars from their mother's betrayal, but they were resilient, surrounded by healthy love and consistent protection. The foundation of my life had been shattered, but from those ruins we had built something perhaps stronger than before, a family bound not by blind trust, but by proven loyalty, conscious vigilance, and unwavering love. Trust, I had learned, should never be completely blind. Love should never override protection. And sometimes the family we rebuild after devastation is more authentic than the one we thought was perfect. What would you have done in my situation? Has anyone ever warned you about something that completely changed your life path? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please hit that subscribe button and share it with someone who might need to hear it. Thank you for listening to my journey. And remember, sometimes the most important text message you receive might be the one that initially breaks your heart. Stay safe and protect those you love.